to a dangerous new level.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says his primary goal for today, an immediate ceasefire. You're watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Carly Shimkus.
And I am Todd Pyro, Fox News live on the ground in Ukraine. Plus, Jillian Turner standing by with Washington's response to Putin's nuclear escalation.
But we start with Steve Harrigan live in Kiev as a massive Russian convoy closes in. Steve, what's the latest?
Missile attacks here in Kiev overnight and some heavy street fighting in Kharkiv, the second largest city. Interesting to note that the Russians were unable to take that city. They have achieved no major objectives so far in 5 days of war. President Putin warned that he's putting his nuclear forces on high alert, this after what he says are aggressive moves by the West. And as refugees try to escape here, one final note, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, has said that so far in the fighting, 16 children have died in Ukraine, and he put the figure of Russian military dead that can't be verified at 4,500. Guys, back to you.
Steve, have you had an opportunity to talk to any Ukrainians about these peace talks that are just getting underway right now? What are they saying about them? Is there any hope?
I think when you talk to someone here on the ground, you just see in the face real fear. Like, you know, some woman said to me today, you know, they're shooting around my mother's house. Do you know how bad it is in this district of Kiev? And I wasn't able to answer. I mean, I knew there were explosions and fighting there, but I couldn't give her any specifics. So I think there's real fear from a lot of people of just the explosions going on around them. And there's hope that perhaps a ceasefire could happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's heartbreaking to hear that she's turning to any outlet, you as well, to give her some hope and some answers. I think that's such an understandable human response. Steve, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll check back in with you very soon. And meanwhile, in the east, Russian forces capturing 2 towns as Ukrainian forces continue to hold key cities.
Mike Tobin live in Lviv with the latest. Mike.
And Todd, I want to start you out with some video that shows really remarkable images of Ukrainian resistance. And this is a strike on a Russian armored column. It appears to be from a drone, and that appears to be from one of these Turkish-made TB2 drones. There was a lot of discussion in the lead up to this invasion about whether the Ukrainians were going to have access to these TB2 drones and effectively use them. And what is significant about these drones is each one of them can carry 4 anti-tank weapons, and I believe in this video what you're seeing is these drones in effect. There has been some talk about collateral damage. You just heard from President Zelensky about the children who have been killed. We have a video now of a civilian compound, an apartment building that has been hit. Thus far, collateral damage in this conflict, and this is from the area called Chernihiv, which is to the north and the east of this country, a little northeast of the capital city of Kiev. In the fighting, you have people fleeing for the border, but the fighting age men can't go. Therefore, you have families that are broken up, fathers saying goodbye to their children, hoping they will see them when the fighting stops. We have video now of a young Ukrainian boy who just said goodbye to his father.
А папу оставили в Киеве. И папа будет продавать что-то, будет помогать нашим героям, нашим войскам.
To this point, we've been able to report that the Russians have been unable to gain a foothold in any population centers in the country. There is reporting now that that is no longer the case. A couple of towns to the south and east of Ukraine, Nikolaivka and Berdansk, there's reporting that the Russians are now in control of those cities, and particularly as it relates to Nikolaivka. Having control of that would give Russians access to the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea, and therefore the ability to resupply. Guys, back to you.
All right, Mike Tobin. Yeah, I know, of the little boy. Thank you so much for bringing us that sound. We appreciate it. It really does paint an unbelievable picture. All right, Mike, we'll check back in with you very soon. And, you know, U.S. intelligence said that Russia could likely take over Kiev in 2 days. We're now in day 5, and that hasn't happened yet. As Mike was just saying, Russian forces have taken control of 2 cities, Nikolaivka and Berdansk. But that fighting is still ongoing, and we've seen the change of hands happen before. So there is still hope that Ukraine can regain control of that territory.
And look at the comparison between February 25 and February 26. Looks like the exact same map, because it basically is the exact same map.
Between February 26th and February 28th, you can see Russia has regained control of a little more territory close to Crimea and in the east as well.
But the underlying premise is they are not moving with the speed that they thought they would. And if you talk to the experts, a number of reasons stand out. One, Russia thought they would have way more air superiority by this point. They do not have that air superiority. The fighting at the airports from the Ukrainians has been amazing. They have been able to keep the Russians at bay. Also, no attacks at night, or limited attacks at night, because the lack of night vision goggles. You can shoot a missile potentially at night, but you really can't do the hand-to-hand in the city, in the street fighting, if you do not have that night vision goggles. And a lot of generals are pointing out that is a huge problem for the Russians. It makes sense. Just a global, they're underfunded, the Russians, and they are under-equipped, underscoring the notion that Putin did not expect this to be this onerous. And the big issue, we've had generals on, military experts on, they all say, if you have logistics, you have a win. If you don't have logistics, not having logistics eliminates any strategy that you have. And right now, logistics are hurting the Russians. The failure is limiting the impact that the massive number of troops, the massive advantage that the Russians have over the Ukrainians, it's not helping them right now.
Todd, Ukraine says 352 civilians have died so far in this war, including 14 kids. At least 1,684 civilians have been wounded in Ukraine. According to the International Affairs Ministry, 116 of those are children.
That kills me. That video, man. That video that Tobin showed. Unbelievable. With that, let us bring in Shlomo Rosilio. He's the CEO of Hatzalah Ukraine and a Ukrainian resident. He is helping people get to safety. Shlomo, great to have you. How are you doing it? How are you evacuating these people?
Hey guys, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. This morning is actually a very, very tough morning. As for you spoke about it, about the convoy of Russian army coming into Kiev. We're going to be getting out of Kiev today, probably. The reason is because we need some help. We need to get some help to other cities. Kiev is very, very tough right now. The war is all over the place, and whoever can get out needs to get out. But it's very difficult. We are taking care of a couple of orphanages right now that we want to take them to the border, and that's why we're going to be getting out of Kiev and starting the surrounding of the area and getting them out. And that's what we do in Hatzalah, Ukraine. Yes.
Oh, Shlomo, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, your efforts have been so incredible, and you've been doing this for some time now. How many Ukrainians have you successfully been able to get out of the country?
We took out approximately 600 people to the border. We're trying to accommodate them also in the border. It's not easy. It's very difficult right now, but we're trying to do our best. We're focusing on kids mainly. And families with little kids and women and people that are not, their voice is not heard. And that's what we're focusing right now.
How bad do you think that this refugee crisis in the end will get?
Oh, it's very bad. Very, very bad already. And it's going to get worse by the minute. And there's nowhere, help, there's nowhere to be found. We are begging for everybody's help. Whoever can go on our website and try to, get us the help that those people need, we would really appreciate it. It's a tough time, and we need the help of the people,
You mentioned the website, Shlomo. It is hatzalahukraine.org. Please go to it if you want to help out.
Yes.
We have it on the screen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you're doing.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
God bless.
Prayers
Thank
to
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Valentina Bajada fled the Soviet Union in 1989, but now the New York resident is stuck in Kiev after returning to tie up family affairs. She'll tell us more about being stranded in the capital of Ukraine as it enters day 5 of the Russia deadly invasion.
We are back with a Fox News alert. The U.S. responding to Putin's decision to put nuclear forces on high alert.
Yeah, this as the tours for nearly 4,000 U.S. troops in Europe are reportedly extended. Jillian Turner joins us live from Washington with more. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. So the Biden administration overnight was laser focused on responding to Vladimir Putin's elevation of his country's nuclear readiness posture. That is now the major threat. It is so severe, leaders across the world say they are alarmed. So far in the first days of this war in Ukraine, the president's team has repeatedly claimed that they are not being taken by surprise by any of Putin's military moves. Take a listen.
This is really a pattern that we've seen from President Putin through the course of this conflict, which is manufacturing threats that don't exist in order to justify further aggression.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers have their own priorities, and featuring high on the list, at least from Republicans, is American energy independence.
What gives Vladimir Putin and his cronies their leverage? They have oil and they have nuclear weapons.
We need to be prioritizing our own energy security. We need to change our energy policy.
The White House, though, is insisting the only way to get there is to focus long-term on green energy and renewables.
The Keystone Pipeline was not processing oil through the system. That does not solve any problems. That's a misdiagnosis, or maybe a misdiagnosis of what needs to happen. What this actually justifies, in President Biden's view, is the fact that we need to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, on oil in general.
We're told that President Biden is firmly committed to not allowing a single American boot to touch Ukrainian soil during this conflict. But the White House is making moves, as is the Pentagon, behind the scenes to ensure that Putin feels military pressure coming at him from every angle outside of Ukraine. Overnight, a spokesperson for the U.S. Army in Europe announced that 4,000 American troops are going to have their assignments there extended. Carly and Todd.
Jillian Turner, live for us in Washington. Thank you. The United Nations General Assembly gathering for a special session today as the State Department advises Americans to leave Russia immediately.
Rich Edson live at the Pentagon with the very latest. Rich.
Yeah, good morning, guys. And this is developing in this situation here. What you're seeing from the United States on the first hand, the response from the administration on that increased nuclear readiness from Vladimir Putin's government. Well, the U.S. has essentially left its status unchanged. This, as a number of former and current American officials are warning they are seeing a much more unstable Russian president.
Well, I met with him many times, and this is a different Putin. And he once said, you're always essentially a KGB man if you are. So he had that tough veneer. He was always calculating and cold. But this is different. He seems erratic.
The United Nations Security Council voted this weekend to host a special session of the UN General Assembly. It's scheduled for later today. This is the 11th special session that the UN has held since 1950. The UN is expected to consider a resolution calling on Russia to stop its invasion and leave Ukraine. Russia's central bank nearly doubled its target interest rate to 20%. That's a move designed to halt inflation as the value of the ruble has dropped 30% to the U.S. dollar this morning. On top of that, you're also seeing reports that Russia's central bank is keeping markets in Russia closed today. This is all the result of substantial and coordinated sanctions between the U.S. and European Union targeting Russia's central bank and its top banks. The U.S. also announced $350 million in additional military aid to Ukraine, including anti-tank and anti-aircraft systems. The European Union says it will finance $500 million in weapons for Ukraine. That's the first time it's done so for a country under attack. The EU has also said that it is closing its airspace to Russian aircraft, and as a result of all that, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow is warning any Americans who are in Russia to consider leaving immediately, as they may face some problems getting out of the country in the future. Back to you guys.
Seems like an appropriate warning, Rich Edson. We appreciate it. After fleeing the Soviet Union decades ago, a New York City resident has been stuck in Ukraine in the midst of the Russian invasion. Her name, Valentina Bajada, and she joins me with her partner, Heidi Russell, live. Thanks to the both of you for being here. Valentina, how you doing?
Thank you.
Valentina, how you doing?
Thank you for having us. Thank you for such an opportunity to address to American people, to United States, to all the countries in the world. Ukraine today is in a grave danger. We are losing people, we're losing lives. There is no provision in the stores. Banks are closed. We have no other help but from outside of the country. We don't know who our enemies. We don't know who is doing what, but we know it's Russia behind this, Kadyrov, and now it's Belarus. People in Ukraine losing hope. They know that Putin will not let it go. He will do anything to conquer this country, take its people, take control, and if he cannot succeed through war, he has nuclear weapons, which is he will not hesitate to use. And every elderly person in Ukraine know that Putin will not let it go easy.
Okay, you mentioned that the people are obviously upset with what is happening. They're starting to feel a lack of hope. But how do you reconcile that with the images that we're seeing on our screen of these Ukrainians, not just forces, but Ukrainians, everyday citizens taking up arms to defend their homeland?
Correct. Everyday men and even women today are already stepping in to defend their country. Yes, they surrounded Kyiv. They're taking Kharkov, Zhytomyr, they're taking many cities. Kyiv right now, people, warriors, soldiers, this is the defenders of Ukraine who truly believe this is their homeland and they will do anything possible to not let invader come. But for now, people are struggling. There's no medication. There's no money coming from anywhere. ATMs are empty. Banks are closed. We have limited transportation. We don't know what to expect, but we know it's a great danger coming to our country. And every day is getting worse. Right now, today, maybe it's quiet, but Putin and his army and his aggression are collectively coming into Ukraine right now. And just a matter of days, things will start again. And people know that. Elderly know that. The ones that lived through war know that. So we're asking for help to save us, to help us, because Ukraine today in a grave danger.
Heidi, how frustrating has it been to watch this from afar, wanting to help, but really not being able to?
Yes, it's been incredibly hard. And you know, just sitting here in New York City wanting my loved one to come home and knowing that there's so many other people struggling over there. And it's been, you know, the irony of our home is under siege here in New York City by a serial drifter. And that's why Valentina hasn't been able to come home. And now she's under siege by Russia in her homeland, where her grandmother and mother suffered through the war as well.
Unbelievable. Heidi and Valentina, we certainly hope that you are reunited soon. Valentina, please stay safe and get home to the U.S. as soon as you can. We're praying for you. Valentina and Heidi, thanks. Carly, over to you.
Thank you.
God bless them both. All right, President Biden's State of the Union address tomorrow comes at a time when the world is facing a major international crisis. On top of the issues facing Americans here at home, like inflation, the border crisis, and out-of-control crime. Joe Concha on deck, coming up next.
We are back with a Fox News alert, and right now you are looking live at the meeting room at the Belarus border, where peace talks between Russia and Ukraine are set to begin at any minute. Ukrainian President Zelensky says his primary goal for today, of course, an immediate ceasefire, but all this comes as a massive Russian convoy closes in on Kyiv, and Belarus is poised to join the fray against Ukraine. So an interesting juxtaposition on the Belarus border, but Belarus entering the fray on behalf of the Russians. We, of course, will keep you posted on this throughout our show and throughout the course of your day right here on the Fox News channel. Here at home, President Biden's popularity slipping even further to just 37% as Russia's war on Ukraine reaches a new dangerous phase.
Joe Concha joins us live to break down the numbers. And Joe, just diving into these poll numbers a little further, you see that Democrats gave Biden 77% approval, which is a low score for a president of your own party.
Oh, Carly, it is. When you consider the last president and Trump was usually in the 90% range in terms of party approval. And when you dig deeper into the president's numbers, it only gets worse for Mr. Biden. He's at just 30% approval among independents. But here's what's most disturbing, considering we're talking about the leader of the free world. Joe Biden is 14 points underwater on Americans believing he has the mental sharpness to serve effectively. Just 40% believe he has the mental sharpness to do the job. 54% do not. That's a perception, an impression that is very difficult to reverse, and it will lead to a red tsunami in the November midterms with Republicans now, up 10 points in the generic ballot. That is big-time trouble. We're talking about maybe 70 seats being flipped to the Republican Party if that number holds.
What's so interesting to me about what you just said, Joe, look at those numbers. That's not the number of people that voted for him. So people are obviously having major buyer's remorse right now. Got to get your thoughts on this. This is a contra topic if ever there has been one. FEMA reminding people to wear masks in the case of a nuclear event. Yeah, not a joke, not an Onion headline. Here it is. Go to the basement or middle of the building. Stay away from outer walls and roof. Try to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet between yourself and people who are not part of your household. And if possible, wear a mask. Again, this is if there is a nuclear explosion, an event like a bomb going off. Are these people for real, Joe?
You've seen Terminator 2, right? And Linda Hamilton's trying to warn people on the playground to get off because a nuclear bomb's about to go off, and then her face basically melts off when it happens. Yeah. In case of a possible nuclear holocaust, keep up masking and be sure to socially distance. And if you think you have COVID, it also says, quote, call 911 and be sure to put on a mask before help arrives. It actually says this. I mean, this is several flavors of stupid, guys and gals. And then again, this isn't some blogger saying this. This is the United States government. This is FEMA and their recommendations, and it's not old recommendations either. This was updated just 2 days ago, Todd.
Yeah, go to the basement in the middle of a building, also bring a mask. It just seems like, all right, what really is important here? Totally unbelievable.
Yeah, call 911. They're not going to be busy with anything else, Joe. COVID, we're going to get right on that. Everything else is fine. But this is scary, Joe, because these are the people that are in charge of not just this, they're in charge of our entire federal response to everything.
I don't have anything to add at this point, Todd.
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much smothered this at this point.
I know. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. We'll check back with you soon.
That could be the scariest thing this morning. Meantime, if you're just waking up with us here on a Monday, let's go live once again. The meeting room, where peace talks expected to begin at any minute between Ukraine and Russia after 5 days of brutal fighting.
We have live coverage on the breaking updates coming up next.
We're back with a Fox News alert. Take a look at the left-hand side of your screen. You are looking live at the meeting room at the Belarus border, where peace talks between Russia and Ukraine are set to begin at any minute. Ukrainian President Zelensky saying his primary goal for today, an immediate ceasefire.
But it comes as a massive Russian convoy close in on Kiev, and Belarus is poised to join the fray against Ukraine. Mike Tobin standing by in Lviv, but let's get straight to Steve Harrigan live in Kiev as a massive Russian convoy closes in. Steve, what's the latest?
A lot of people here in Ukraine, at the very least, hoping for a ceasefire out of those talks, which are just about to get underway on the border between Belarus and Ukraine. The Ukrainians also want Russia to pull back its forces from their territory immediately. Russia likely to ask for a Ukraine surrender. The two sides pretty far apart on those peace talks. And they come as heavy fighting continues here on the ground. Missiles hit the capital of Kiev overnight, and also heavy ground fighting going on in Kharkiv, in the second largest city. Real street-to-street fighting going on there. By the end of the day, the Russians still did not control that city. They have taken no major strategic objectives by this fifth day of the invasion. As far as President Putin goes, he put his nuclear forces on high alert. That really ratchets up the tension involved. He said he's doing so in response to what he calls aggression from the West. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Steve. Let's go to Mike Tobin now. Russian forces capturing 2 towns in the east as Ukrainian forces continue to hold key cities.
That's right. Mike Tobin is live in Lviv in the west with the latest. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Carly. The Ukrainian resistance is still very much engaged. Anyone who can pick up a weapon is joining the fight. Anyone who can't is staying behind and resupplying those involved in the fight. In a nondescript warehouse here in the town of Lviv, we found a group of people who were making everything from camouflage netting to Molotov cocktails. And what they were doing to make these Molotov cocktails is just getting old liquor bottles, filling them up, and shavings from soap. And what that combination of petroleum and soap shavings did is it makes like a jelly, very much like napalm. That way, when the firebomb breaks open, whatever that jelly sticks to will burn. They're doing that. We also found, in this case, there are Ukrainians, expats who live abroad, who are now returning to Ukraine to join the fight.
And I can't just stay in Poland and let Russians destroy our independence, destroy our cities, kill our citizens, kill our children, kill our elderly people. So, summing up all those circumstances, I made a decision to come back to Ukraine and fight.
And whenever you get combat that enters urban areas, you're going to get collateral damage. And we have an example of that in the town of Chernihiv. This is to the northeast of Kiev. An apartment building was hit there. Don't have any word on the casualties from this particular strike, but a very visual and horrible example of the realities of war. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, without a doubt, devastating footage there. But we've seen the resilience of the Ukrainian people has been unmatched so far. Mike, thank you. Vladimir Putin putting